Hello, I'm Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, the Relationship Help Doctor. Do you believe that you have the right to be assertive? Would you believe that you have the right and the responsibility to be assertive? I think you do. And what it means to be assertive is to be able to say clearly who you are, what you think, what you need, what you want, or how you feel. And it's a simple matter of being in touch with who you are and feeling that you deserve to take up space and draw breath, and therefore you deserve to say what's going on for you. Now, for many of us, we've been put down when we were young. The idea that we are able to have our feelings or able to speak our mind was just discouraged. Like, who wants to hear from you? You know, there used to be that adage that children should be seen and not heard, and of course that's changed some. And in some cases it's changed too far the other way, because now we let children speak to their parents in ways that are disrespectful. And it's really poor training for the rest of their lives, so I really wish they wouldn't do that. But they think they're doing it to be raising children who are assertive. No, they're not. They're raising children who are going to be socially not adept, and that's not a good idea. But let's get back to you. Would you allow yourself to simply express how you think and what you feel? As long as you're not treading on anybody else's toes or telling other people what to do, you have the absolute right to be assertive, and many people are not exercising that right. When you ask them what they like, they say, oh, I don't know. When you ask them where they'd like to go, they say, oh, it doesn't matter to me. These are people who are afraid to make a decision in many cases. Sure, there's always times when we don't care. You know, if your partner asks you where you want to go to dinner and you go to dinner once a week, maybe you don't care. But if you habitually let somebody else make those decisions for you, it's likely that what's happening there is that you are wanting to please the other person. You're not feeling strong enough to make a declaration about what you want, and you deserve to do that. Remember, I said it's because you breathe and take up space. You do deserve to do that. And you will get into more authentic relationships with other people when you do that. It's not a real risk, is it, to say, I'd like to go to the Thai restaurant for dinner tonight, and maybe nobody else wants to go there, but it's not a real risk. It's simply you saying what you want. Practice. That's what it takes, practice. Just do say what you want. Do express what you're feeling or thinking. Do ask for what you need and want. And there is a fine line. Of course there's a fine line. You know, I've watched people who are stepping over boundaries all the time with other people, and that becomes aggressive. That's not assertive. You know, if I want that and I need that and you can't have that, that's aggressive. But assertive is to say, I'd like to have that, and then see what the response is. You have every right to say that. You know, I come from Canada, and we're well known for being polite. And so things get left on trays all the time. Why? Because no one wants to take the last piece or use the last of it. And yes, I appreciate that. I understand that. But it can get taken to a degree that is unhealthy, so that you never learn to express yourself, or you never learn to speak up, or you don't tell your true feelings. Like, what if you really are hungry and you want to eat that last piece? Do you say, oh, no, 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 and give it to someone else? You're allowed to do that. And you know, I found it offensive when people used to ask for what they wanted. Mainly because they were clumsy at it and they were kind of demanding and aggressive. But even when they weren't, I noticed deep inside, I was like, oh, how come you can do that? And I realized at that point, it was my upset was coming because I didn't allow myself to do that. And I had to look at it long and hard. Like, where did I learn to not be assertive in that way? Where were the, as I said, cultural things that come from my background? Where were the family things that showed up in that? And why did I think it was so offensive? Well, it was all in how people were assertive. If someone said, you know, I'd like to do that, or I'd like to have that, that's absolutely fine. It's benign. It doesn't hurt anybody. It's simply an expression. But if you find yourself as I did when someone said that, going, well, who do you think you are? I had to look to see that that was an old mother tape of mine. You know, my mother was a hijackal, as I've said before, and if I asked for something, she would say, well, who do you think you are? Why should you have that? You know, that's greedy, that's selfish, that's whatever the going word for the day was. And so when we're little, we take on that, oh no, you don't deserve to have those things. No, don't you be asking for that now. And you have to re-examine those things as you get older and say, what do I really believe about that? What's really going on? So that's what happened for me, and it might be happening for you, that when someone is assertive, you get a little offended because you weren't raised that way. And you need to be able to tell the difference between assertive and aggressive. Don't be putting up with aggressive behavior. You've already got enough of that if you have a hijackal in your life. But don't be putting up with it just because it's become a habit. And allow yourself to ask for what you need and want. You're not taking it away from somebody else. That's the limiting belief that's in your head, that if I take that, someone else won't have that. Well, in a sense, that's true if you take the last piece of cake off the tray, but the actual fact is someone's going to take the last piece of cake off the tray, and if it's your turn, why not? And so that's a silly example, but it's an important example because it may be something as small as that you're not allowing yourself to do. So practice being assertive. Practice just simply talking about yourself. Listen to the 2 videos on the personal weather report, how to send one and how to receive one, so that you know the parameters of that. And then practice just being able to allow yourself, even practice just in your mind in social settings for a bit, asking for what you need and want, or saying what you think or feel. You have that right. You do. And many of us didn't receive that right. It's something that kind of gets instilled in us in our early years, from birth to 1.5 years old, when we were really valued and we really knew we belonged and we were really the apple of the family's eye, and we got all the attention, we got all the bonding, we got all the attachment, and it was all healthy. Then we knew we had the right to be here. But some of us didn't have that experience. And if you didn't have that experience, get some help to work that through. It doesn't take all that much time, but it makes a huge difference in your life. I always look at those things with my clients when they come to work with me, because that's the foundation of your life that was set long before you had language, long before you could speak up. You just were taking things in, and that was your studying of how the world was and what your place in that world was. And maybe it wasn't healthy. Maybe it wasn't good, and it needs some revisiting and revamping now. So think about it. Where are you being assertive? And if you can't find a place, start practicing, at least in your head, and then become brave enough to simply say what you think, feel, need, and want. I wish you well with that.